Let's talk about polling. There is a new poll, which many in our audience are furious about. The Pew Research Center says that 85% of Bernie Sanders supporters will vote for Hillary Clinton in November. This is not shocking to me. The more shocking thing to me is that 9% say they will support Donald Trump. Those are the ones that are really disturbing to me. And I want to point something else out. This is a significantly faster rallying effect than the Democratic Party saw after the primary of 2008, where ultimately many Hillary supporters who said they would not support President Obama did. Now, people will hear me say that and say, David, again, it's different. That was establishment moving to establishment. This is outside progressive hero moving to establishment, and it's not going to happen. And I don't believe the poll. The problem is, if you don't like that poll, there are numerous other polls that have almost the same numbers. An NBC poll, as well as a Suffolk University poll, say somewhere between 73 and 85% of Bernie supporters will ultimately support Hillary. Lewis, at this point, I don't think that the focus should be denying that the polls are accurate, because numerous polls are saying the same thing. Now, if everybody's lying to the pollsters, I would be interested to hear a hypothesis as to why, but I have no reason to think that's the case.
Certainly not everyone is lying. The numbers seem high to me, just from what I can gather around comments, the internet, and talking to people. But how much lower do I think it would be? I mean, 50%, 60%. I mean, even if 50% of Bernie supporters are going to vote for Hillary.
As of July.
Yeah. I mean, how far down are you going to bring that number just because you don't believe it to be true?
Let's go through some of the other results from the poll. I'll put them up on the screen. And Rachel, you had some thoughts about some of this. One question was, do you think Hillary Clinton would change the way things work in Washington? Among all voters, 25% believe that Hillary Clinton would change the way things work in Washington for the worse, 20% for the better. More than half think that Hillary Clinton would not change the way things work in Washington fundamentally. Absolutely no surprise there. On the question of how does voter satisfaction compare to that of recent years, how satisfied are voters with the presidential candidates? Quite low. You have to go all the way back to the Clinton-Bush-Perot election of 1992 to get a point at which voters were so dissatisfied with the choices. And then what are the top issues for voters? Also interesting to look at: the economy, terrorism, foreign policy, and healthcare, the most important issues to voters there. At the very bottom of the list, by the way, issues of only 40% believed that treatment of gay, lesbian, transgender people was important, and also abortion. Now, I argue, Rachel, that those aren't at the bottom of the list because people don't care about them. They're at the bottom of the list because they are increasingly less controversial.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's also important to note that out of the 50% of Clinton's voters view that vote as more of a vote against Donald Trump, and that for that same figure, it's 55% for him.
Yeah.
And that's the highest share of against votes for a Democratic candidate dating back to about 2000. And I think it's really interesting because if you're looking at, okay, there's Romney, and that figure was about 58%.
Right.
And he lost to Obama. And then for Kerry, that figure was about 1 in 4 voters, and he lost to Bush. So even if you have this kind of high percentage of voters who are saying, okay, we're going to vote for you because we have a vote that is against the other candidate, you can still lose.
Yes, and in fact, that has happened. So I think you're bringing up a good point, which is right now, a lot of the support for Trump is a protest vote against Hillary Clinton. A lot of the vote for Hillary Clinton is a protest vote against Donald Trump. Historically, when there is a high protest vote percentage, Mitt Romney experienced that in 2012, as Rachel said. Mitt Romney lost badly. We saw that the Kerry attempt to dethrone George W. Bush in 2004 was in big part a vote against George W. Bush, did not work. The difference, though, Lewis, is that in this election, votes for both candidates are protest votes in great part against their opponent, whereas in past elections, it was more one-sided.
Mm-hmm. And that is reflected in the dissatisfaction level.
Right.
It's incredible. And yeah, I don't really like either of them, but still, think about the big picture, please.
Is it for you a lesser of two evils thing, as Bernie Sanders said it is not for him?
I mean, it's almost that in any election, isn't it?
In other words, you're rarely thrilled with any of the choices.
Yes, correct.
All right. Well, send me your thoughts about this. And again, if you are one of the Bernie supporters who is not going to vote for Hillary, remember that you don't disprove the poll. What you're saying is you're in the 15, 20, or 25% who are not going to support Hillary Clinton. We have 3 polls here. The methodology looks good. They seem like solid polls. I have no reason to think that they are off by any significant margin. We'll take a break. Plenty more after this. I've talked about how people of all ages, but particularly millennials, are owning cars less and participating more in the sharing economy. And one of the more popular options is Zipcar, which gets you a car when you want it, when you need it. They offer all sorts of cars, SUVs, hybrids, whatever you need. It includes insurance and it includes gas. You just pay for the time that you actually use the car. And you can reserve the car online from your smartphone over the phone. Then you unlock it with your Zip card. Each car share member reduces their personal CO2 emissions by between 1,100 and 1,600 pounds per year. For our audience, Zipcar is offering $25 of free driving credit if you sign up at joinzipcar.com/David. Support our show, reduce your carbon emissions and your spending on cars. Sign up at joinzipcar.com/David.